Tonight at midnight will mark 4 days until all that could happen. And joining me now is Cedarville University Professor of Economics, Dr. Jared Pincin. Thank you so much for joining us tonight, Dr. Pincin. At this point, a hard right group is preventing an agreement, even within the Republican Party. Speaker McCarthy is confident, however, that a deal will get done. How many people may be working without pay if they can't get a deal done?
Well, it hasn't been officially decided, but we're probably looking at somewhere between 700 and 800,000 workers furloughed. And then the remaining part of the federal workforce, which is about 2.7 million in total, could be working without pay, but it's probably closer to 700 to 800,000.
Yeah, that's a lot of mortgage companies that would probably want their mortgage every single month, whether they're getting paid or not. Now, outside of those people, Dr. Pincin, who could see their pay delayed or even be furloughed, what will the rest of us see if the government shuts down?
Yeah, the main effects aren't going to be noticed by many people. There's not one individual component that everybody would see. There could be specific parts. For example, if you get WIC funding, Women, Infants, and Children funding, that could be delayed or even stopped about a week or two from now, according to the government. Food stamps could stop being funded about a month and a half from now. So there are things like that. If you're going to visit a national park, that's possible that they are going to close. The Biden administration hasn't announced exactly what they're going to do with these types of programs.
All right, let's sit down at the dinner table with some of these families just trying to piece together their budgets every single month, Dr. Pincin. What issues at home could come from those working without pay?
Sure. Well, the first thing I want to mention is that all federal workers will be paid once the government shutdown ends, if we get to a government shutdown. So it's just delayed payment. But if you are in a situation where you are working paycheck to paycheck and the government shutdown goes beyond when you would get paid, you're going to have a situation where you're going to have to come up with money to pay your typical bills. I don't know how many federal workers meet that criteria, but that is the possibility that would come about. They'd have to draw down their savings in a case like that.
Now, earlier this year, the debate was over the debt ceiling and the catastrophic impact that would have had on our economy, even if it went one day past the deadline. What short or long-term effects would there be from a government shutdown?
Sure. I want to first mention that there are two separate issues. So a government shutdown doesn't have anything to do with the debt ceiling. The debt ceiling is about how much we can borrow. The shutdown is the authorization to spend. So we're not in the same danger of a default situation that we would have been in with the debt ceiling. So that's one thing to keep in mind. The impacts should be generally small. The estimates out there are for every 10 days of a government shutdown, we'd lose about 0.1 percentage point of GDP. So you'd need a pretty significant shutdown for this to have any real impact on the economy.
All right, what has the bigger impact, Dr. Pincin, a shutdown or slashing from federal services like some of the far-right Republicans are asking for right now?
Well, I'm not sure we're slashing anything. I was looking at the data today. We have a $6.3 trillion budget. If you compare that to just 2 years ago, it was $4.4 trillion. So 4 years ago, we were spending $2 trillion less, and I'm not aware of anybody that's caught asking for that type of slashing. So I would think that unless there's huge cuts that nobody is actually proposing, a government shutdown would be the bigger cost. But again, it's probably a pretty small cost at this stage.
Yeah, and keep in mind, the Speaker of the House, Kevin McCarthy, right now is confident that they're going to avoid this shutdown by the end of the week as he tries to get a deal done. Dr. Jared Pincin, thank you so much for joining us, Professor of Economics at Cedarville University.